Hi, welcome to the Dave Palmer Show. And with me in this episode, I have a resilience expert, author, licensed marriage and family therapist with a resilience training method validated by a decade of research. Kristin MacDermott, welcome to the Dave Palmer Show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm really grateful for you to be here as well. And, obviously in these global times now with the pandemic and everything, resilience has been the number one sort of thing that people probably should either turn to or are practicing or, just naturally looking to be, So
yeah,
I've got my own story with that, and I'm sure we will say, along the way of this interview. But that's your topic, is resilience. So, I mean, what is it? Why do some people have it, others don't? And what can we do to build it?
well, I think resilience is not just persevering and white knuckling it through a difficult time. I think you can actually use really difficult times to learn about yourself and grow and actually come out the other side feeling like a better, stronger, happier version of yourself. And so I first got interested in this when I worked in an oncology department. And I noticed that
when you
some of
say
these,
you worked in an oncology department, was you in a medical profession before this?
yes, well, no, I mean, I've always been a therapist, but I worked in a
I'm
hospital
with you
in
now.
Colorado with
Oh,
people when they were hooked up to their cancer chemotherapy
right.
infusion. You know, you're hooked up for 4 or 6 hours,
Yeah.
so you're trapped there. And so they got me, whether they wanted me or not. You know, they weren't asking for therapy. They just got me, walking in the room to see how I could help them and their families through this, horribly disruptive and terrifying experience that is cancer.
That's right.
And I noticed that certain people just figured out naturally. It's not like they had training, but they figured out how to have a resilient mindset and mobilize resources so that they really came through the cancer experience better than a lot of people who it really disrupted their lives and threw them for a loop. And so I became curious. This was 20 years ago. What is it that these people know? And can we learn from them and teach others? And so, in fact, we can. I mean, I think a lot of times resilience seems like it's hearing other people making it through something, but a lot of times it's hard to pull out what they actually did to make it through. So my passion is distilling resilience down into these little bite-sized skills that anyone, I mean, I teach it to 7-year-olds, that anyone can do and learn. And separately, these skills are not rocket science, but taken together, they really help you look at challenges differently and look at, okay, what can I control here? Like the pandemic, for example, there's so much outside of our control that it can be overwhelming and demoralizing. But when you have emotional intelligence, you realize there are ways that you can take care of yourself at all times, even when there's a lot of really scary stuff outside of your control.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's quite a good paragraph to put that answer to that question in. Obviously, it's a bit wider than that, and we're going to talk more about the pandemic as well, and how we can people now and post pandemic can use some of the skills that you teach, and give certain examples for certain people that were affected, certain sectors as well. So we're going to move on to that later. But I mean, I know as a firefighter, they even say people in frontline jobs like first responders, and obviously they say, yeah, we've got the sort of brain. It's true, obviously you've got to. Some people are running out of the fire, and we're actually going in or whatever. Right. You're going to war, and you've got this thing, your friend's legs being blown, and that kind of thing. And I know you've done some training for military and police as well. I've seen that on your bio. But although we have the mindset, there is psychological issues, there's suicide going on and PTSD and stuff like that. I mean, PTSD is different because that's kind of like before, when we didn't know much about it, and there's only recent research, it's kind of something playing back in your mind. So where you don't think there's nothing going on, then it's nothing, you're braving it out. Something is going on, it's kind of like still stewing up in your brain where you can't even register that it's going on,
Well, and it's interesting because you think of all those super brave people running into fires and doing those things.
Yeah, I did that for a while. Yeah, most of my career. Yeah.
But I'm curious what you think about this. But in my experience with people, emotions are things that are kind of a nuisance. It's sort of like you're not supposed to talk about them or think about them or pay attention to them, because like fear, you got to just do it anyway, like stress, whatever. It's just stressful. So it's like people tend to kind of ignore or push down their emotions, but those emotions find a way, that stress and anxiety finds a way to seep into people's lives. And if you don't learn how to cope with it in a way that is healthy, you're going to drink or, do, I mean, you just are, we're human beings. And it's like, I feel like we don't teach people enough to, accept that whatever negative emotions are, whether you're just super stressed or have anxiety or you're afraid or you're angry, whatever that is, if you cannot think of it as weak to express your emotions, or at least acknowledge them and realize that that's actually the way, that's the path to taking care of yourself. Because your negative emotions will tell you, okay, so well, what do you need? If you're angry about this, what do you need? Or if you're just at the breaking point, what do you need to take care of yourself? And I think like that's probably the biggest switch that people have to make in their minds. If you want to be resilient, it is not just being mentally tougher. It is developing self-awareness about your whole internal system, so that like emotional intelligence, for example, if you want to being resilient means you can take something difficult, learn from it, and feel better. So a huge piece of that is emotional intelligence, which just means instead of experiencing your emotions as these things that just kind of come over you and you've got to get through, you can say, okay, what's causing this emotion? Oh, well, it's a set of thoughts. And if I thought about this differently, I would have different emotions. Or if I took all this jumble of thoughts and actually looked at them one at a time, I would find that, well, this one's really important. This one's not even true. This one, there's nothing I can do about, and you can find action steps. And then you realize you have a way to control your response to your emotions instead of just like getting through them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. But I think it's kind of like resilience and stress management is more than what it was 20 years ago. So, I mean, not for you, because you probably learned a lot that 20 years when you was working in the oncology department, but for organizations, you have to deal with it by going on an assertiveness course and learn to say no, or, that kind of thing. Or stress management is, I don't know, just
meditation.
Well, meditation's good. I mean, I used it for sports. I did sports, an overlap of my interest from school and firefighting. And luckily it helped my firefighting career, because there wasn't much. Now there is. Mindfulness and that is now being embedded, and more and more doing things like yoga in the type of jobs where it's all tough and stuff like that, because they thought it was all kind of like, all this stuff from the East, and, it's... But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that wasn't around in 10, 20, 30 years ago for stress management. It was kind of like just little textbop things, say, oh, well, just do this, just say that. But now it's a bit more than it, because I mean, because I do sports, I learned, now things like the physical side of, because physical, now there's more and more saying the physical aspect, you've got to have that. And sleep is now a big, big topic, more than even nutrition now, but they all combine together.
So that's actually something that I thought was very interesting from working with the Navy SEALs.
Right.
Is, those guys have a lot of TBIs, like traumatic brain injuries, from various things, from, explosions and things like that. But one of the things that they told me is that they were told by doctors that the lack of sleep, or the fact that their circadian rhythms were so messed up, because if you think about a Navy SEAL, they're up all night.
Yes.
Everything happens at night, right?
And I know what it's like having a busy night as a firefighter. I mean, my worst incident I went to, I literally had to work two nights shifts there, and in the daytime I didn't get much sleep. So
that's the thing, you don't get much sleep in the daytime, and you're on high alert at night, and it has like impacts in your actual brain. It really does. And so when those guys can actually fix that and re-regulate their sleep so that they're actually getting good, deep REM sleep, REM sleep, whatever it's called, that is a huge positive for them. And you'd think, like, we all knew sleep was important, but to realize like that it has that big of an impact on whether or not they can recover from PTSD and things like that. It's so powerful.
Yeah, well, there's certainly a lot of new apps that are out, and as I say, I'm on a just as a life coach, I did it from personal training first, but I had an interest because of what happened to as
Yeah.
myself as a guinea pig, if you like, Um, but now there's more and more apps, and there are sleep apps, but there's been more and more research from MRI scans with stuff like that. So let's get back to resilience, because one of the things also is they're saying like resilient people are although you can't you pretty much have to learn resilience.
Yeah.
Most people have to learn it really, but they say, well, the people that tend to have it more than others will be people that are more accepting. Although they don't accept the situation, they're not going to go out of it. They're going to go, well, I'm going to have to accept this, stand still, stay grounded, just deal with it. Don't accept, but just try and stay grounded really, if you like.
I mean, it's such a good point, because you have to be present to the reality of the situation in order to problem solve about it at all. And it isn't, it's a kind of default for a lot of people to just push against and resist and resist and resist, but then that's not moving you forward. And almost everything in life, you have to move through the things that are challenging in order to learn from them. And so, I think that's such a good point that you bring up. I mean, you have to accept this is the truth of what's going on. You have to accept this is the truth of how I feel about it. And then you have to accept, okay, well, this is what's in my control. All these things aren't, but this is, I don't know if you ever read, did you ever read the book Man's Search for Meaning?
I haven't, but obviously that's a powerful title in itself. Yeah,
it was written by this man who went on to be just an amazing psychologist. I think he was actually an MD, but anyway, but he was in a concentration camp, and at the worst of the worst. But he ended up developing this whole model of psychology, really, and it's sort of it's related to what we were talking about like accepting what is, but realizing that, like, in his words, even when he's freezing with no clothing and no food, and there's a Nazi soldier, whatever, standing over him, about to hit him with a rifle, he realized that, like, what he had inside his own head, he was the only one who could give his dignity away, and like, even in like what I would imagine is like the worst possible scenario you could ever find yourself in, how could you say there's anything still left in his control? But he was the one that said, I still had control over the fact that I held this vision of my wife, who I loved, who I didn't know if she was alive anymore, but I had love, and he couldn't take my dignity. I just think that's such a beautiful way of thinking, like, and I'm not in that bad. I'll never be in that bad of a situation in my life. But sometimes when we start to be like, oh my gosh, there's so many things out of my control, I think of him and think, okay, but there is something inside of me that I can still control in the midst of any circumstance.
Yeah. No, I mean, the thing is that these are kind of, I wouldn't say one-offs, but obviously someone who's managed to master resiliency. I mean, some people kind of learn it as they go along, but also have more than others maybe, and then find a way to deal with it. But I know, going back to my profession and first responders, military, etc., they would learn and train to do our job well. And you stay grounded if it's an explosion, and while you're still trying to rescue the kid that's in the next bedroom and blah, blah, blah. And, the stairs are collapsed or whatever. But you could go home and have an argument with your wife because something's happened and you lose it. It's like the same firefighter there's no training there. There's no training there, but there's training in our job to be able to stay grounded, That's
such a good point. And I found that a lot too, especially with working with first responders, police officers, in particular, is that they were trained in, just like you said, how to do their job without cracking under pressure. But then it's got to come, all that stress has to come out somewhere, and it would come out in the home, in their relationships a lot of the time, because they weren't trained in that kind of communication. And again, those are skills, but someone has to teach them to you. I mean, like you said, some people just are naturally more resilient than others, but they don't necessarily know why. They can't tell you what it is. And so that's one of the things that I do. I do programs where I have people who are not trained at all in resilience. They have no training. A lot of them are actually police officers who work with inner city kids. And they are teaching resilience by reading these emails that I send. That's just one simple skill. and then some questions that they ask. But the point
Okay.
is, these kids know when you ask them the right question, they know answers. They intuitively understand a lot of things about resilience. They just don't know that it's important. They don't know that it's important to, you know, speak up for yourself,
Yeah.
or, you know, listen well without always trying to, you know, shove your own agenda in there, or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
take care of yourself mentally, you know. But it makes sense. All these things make sense. It's just we don't have people saying, by the way, there's a skill for that. By the way, you
Yes. Yeah.
already know that. But that's
I'm
real,
with you now.
like being able to name what are your personal strengths. Like, you know, a lot of parents can look at their kids and say, oh, they have all these strengths. But if you
Yes.
ask the kids, they'll
Yeah.
say,
So I'll
I
just
don't
do it.
know.
Yeah. Oh, I don't
Right.
know. Yeah. Yeah.
So exactly. So these, you know, it's just important to get people to understand what resilience skills are, because they probably have a lot of them. They just don't necessarily know that they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's an area that you do work with is young children, and you also work with you do family therapy, as I've mentioned,
Yeah.
and it's more around resilience building in the situation that I mentioned to you, because the drama's more at the home than than it, you know, we don't look at the incidents as a drama as in what you're trained to do in any job. You know, even
Yeah.
lawyers would have a home situation to deal with. You know, and might sort of have to deal with having a different way to dealing with a case where they stay emotionally, you know, grounded a bit more. You know.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the big, in my model of resilience, one of the really important pieces is not just communication, but conflict resolution.
Yes, yeah.
Like, and there are
That's a
specific skills around that, you
right.
know, if you can frame something as opposed to just you're doing this or you're not doing that, which
Yeah.
of course puts someone totally on the defensive so they can't even hear you. If you take a step back and identify, okay, so what is it that I need here? Like, what is it? Because conflict is almost always about an unmet need or a threatened need. So, like, you could take the households right now with the pandemic, for example, and there
Yes,
are
yeah.
all these people stuck together and their needs aren't getting met because maybe one person needs quiet so they
Yeah.
can get their work done, but another person just needs good music because they just need to be able to pep themselves up, and another
Yes, yeah.
person needs. So you can see how there's a conflict around all these needs, and people don't have that conversation. They're like, turn your music off,
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah.
instead of like, okay, I need some peace and quiet sometime during the day. Well, I need some fun. How can we schedule our day so that we can all get our needs met? Right? It's
Yeah.
simple things, but we don't teach people how to have conversations like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting one. And conflict resolution, again, it's a big topic. I mean, you know, there's degrees and masters in particularly in that
Yeah.
area. So,
Yeah.
but you know, the fact is that maybe 20, 30 years ago in the workplace, anyway, at least on the ground, it's kind of like just a buzzword at first, isn't it? But now it's something that needs, you know, management needs to kind of like cascade down
Well,
to the
yeah, because
workforce.
I have found, you know, even the best leaders who are great at what got them to where they are, which is often knowledge in their thing that they're creating a company around,
Yeah,
aren't necessarily great at conflict resolution or
yeah,
because people don't like it. No, nobody likes that tension. So you have these fantastic leaders in other aspects, like avoiding conversation or being
yeah,
passive
yeah,
aggressive, or, you know, because again, most people don't like confrontation.
yeah,
Or if
yeah.
they do it, then it's like it's too explosive or too kind of one-sided, and that doesn't serve them either.
Yeah, an amazing example in your country. I mean, I've got a politics degree, but I did after doing some trade union work, and then it just evolved that way. But anyway, that's another.
Mm-hmm.
When the Trump Biden television debate started, their first debate, do you think they truly lost it there? Because they weren't, you know, people criticized that they were literally not behaving like future prime minister.
Yeah.
You know, well, obviously, I don't know what
Yeah.
I don't want to go into politics and who
Yeah.
you vote
Yeah.
for, but obviously Trump had his way anyway, which everyone got used to. But with Biden, it's like, no, hang on, that's not right, you know.
I know that's a whole other thing, debate, right? Because then
Yeah,
people are trained on not answering the question and
yeah, that's
deflecting and
true.
saying
Yeah,
what they want.
yeah.
It's frustrating to watch because you're just like,
Politicians learn that
answer the
skill. Yeah,
question.
that's right. Exactly. That's what they.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
do you think there was some kind of conflict resolution? What could you learn about conflict resolution there, where it wasn't really done right? That first television debate.
I mean, I feel like I still feel like that wasn't, they didn't have the same agenda. So if you
Right.
have two people who are both aligned in wanting to
Yeah, yeah.
work together or make the family better, you have to be aligned in your goal of
Right. I'm
one,
with you.
that's the biggest thing, right? And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's what happens in families. You have
That's right. Yeah.
people who love each other.
Yeah.
They want to have a household that feels good. They don't want to have all this friction and yuckiness. They just don't know how to get it, which is a very different thing from, two political leaders who basically want to kill each other. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just not aligned in
Well,
any way.
certainly Biden wasn't aligned with what he wanted to sort of preach and get America back, sort of working with each other irrespective of their differences. It didn't reflect that. Anyway, I just thought I brought that up while I was talking about conflict resolution as a kind of major illustration. Yeah, well, let's talk. We're going to move more into the pandemic, because when I was talking about having to accept a certain situation, and obviously this pandemic and COVID came on. I mean, I don't know how it affected you. I mean, obviously you're using your training to get through it or whatever, and it certainly tested a lot of people who you wouldn't even think. I mean, I've spoken to other coaches, and I know personal trainers, especially, either on social media or people that I know, because obviously sports and fitness was my thing as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, some found it hard to accept, and also you had people that didn't really want to wear face masks. They didn't believe in the lockdown. They're not accepting it, and there's a lot of stress going on.
That's an interesting thing too, because there's, like, if you think of emotions, right? The worst emotions, the lowest emotions you can feel are the helplessness ones. Like, oh my gosh, there's nothing I can do to feel better. And strangely, as you kind of go up the emotional scale, anger is actually more empowered. Like, anger is like, I deserve better than this. I'm going to do something. So it is interesting. The people who were pissed off, in some ways, felt better than the ones who just gave up. Now, not that you want to stay in anger, but the point is, it's like, this is where people, like, developing an understanding of what causes your emotions and what you can do about them to take care of yourself is so important. Because again, like, when you feel helpless, you're not moving, and you want to believe in something, even if it's just your own. That's why, like, all these movements right now where people are so angry, at least they're getting people up and out, and like, and again, like, you don't want to stay there, but it's those people having conversations that I feel like are better off than the ones who are literally not leaving their house and isolating.
Right, I see. That's certainly not healthy, and that's what they're saying is also going to contribute to the the mental health issues that might be kind of dragging on a bit after. It's probably,
I mean, I just don't think we know. I think what the long-term repercussions,
nobody knows.
But I found that the people who could sink their teeth into some project that gave their lives meaning, to me, it comes back to, like, what gives your life meaning, and whether that's a work project or a creative project or your family. People who could find meaning during this time, they did better than the other ones who just couldn't. We don't like, as human beings, we don't like not being able to see the future. We don't like uncertainty. It gives so much anxiety. But the people who could focus on something like, at least I'm like having a good time with these kids who wouldn't normally be in my house because they're adult children and now they're home. So I'm going to try to make the most of that. Or I'm going to write the book I've been wanting to write for all these years.
Okay,
those people tended to do better.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, I've certainly, I've got a job where I'm working from home, because before the pandemic, I was flying from London back to the Philippines. I've got a young daughter here, so I'm homeschooling her now. Now I've got this job, for an Australian company, and I'm doing my podcast, which has grown and trebled, both in, in the kind of way it's gone global, and also the amount of guests that approach me and come on the show. I mean, I know I approached you, asked you to come on my show. But that's
great, though. Good for you.
I suppose it's made me a little bit stressed, as in, I have to manage my time, and I'm usually quite good at that, actually. And then I've kept myself in shape still, and stuff like that. It's probably wobbled a bit because of, the time I've had, but those are the things I'm trying to juggle and make sure I keep all those important values, keeping your health and fitness going, and managing time, So for me, it
That's,
works
I
out
mean,
well in
that's,
terms of I'm not jobless or anything, but it's,
yeah.
you know,
Well,
those
you hit on
elements.
another thing that I think is that in my model is one of the most important aspects of resilience is when we live our lives in alignment with our values. Like you just
Yes.
said, we
Yes.
feel better.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
feel worthy. We feel good about ourselves. That's how we build self-esteem in our kids is we
Yeah.
get them to own, like, what do they care about? What are their values? And live that. And then the other piece is just to live in your strengths. When you do things that you feel good doing that come easily to you, or that you just feel like, well, I'm good at this, you're going to
Yeah.
feel good about yourself. And we can help
Exactly.
our
Yeah.
kids and
Yeah.
ourselves do that more.
Yeah.
And you
And
do that.
well,
Can't
exactly.
tell.
And also when I said, well, actually, I found that now I've got this, you know, a new job. It's working from home, but it's sort of helping, and as well as the podcast growing, it almost squeezed my time out of my own health and fitness regime, which I normally do in the
Mm,
morning because of the circadian rhythm again. And I do some
mhm.
meditation with it, you know, then it almost wobbled and got squeezed out of the way because it's like, well, I want to make sure that the employers are kept happy. And I want to make sure my podcast is growing. I want to, you know, really grow that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but my values popped out. No, you still got to keep your fitness going. You know, it's like the values
Yeah.
there in front of you. And then you find ways of getting around that. And if you're
But then often
relaxed,
it's like a value versus sleep.
yeah,
Two
yeah.
things you don't want to give.
Well, sleep's the
Right?
most important one I've learned now. So I'll make sure I've got that seven and
Yeah.
a half at least hours of sleep,
Hmm.
irrespective, you know. So,
Yeah.
and obviously I apologize, but you know, I had a time management issue where I've had so many
Oh,
interviews
no
today
worries.
where I was almost 5 minutes over, and you know, obviously but anyway, what I'm trying to say is, yeah. So if you keep those values in front of you, like you've mentioned, that
Hmm.
does help with aligning yourself and sort of
Hmm.
managing. And I suppose that's part of the reason, isn't it? Let's talk more about your book then.
Yeah, so I have learned in my life over the last 20 years of trying to find ways to bring resilience to people in ways that they will actually use. Because you can have a great program, but if people won't use it because it's too big,
Yeah.
it's worthless. And so I have realized that people want little bite-sized pieces. People don't want to read a whole book.
No. No.
So my book is, you turn to any page,
Mm-hmm.
and there is one skill that you can read. It's called It Takes 2 Minutes to Shift Your Mindset and Build Resilience. So you
Yeah.
can read it in less than 2 minutes.
Okay.
On the other page is a compelling photograph that's related. So it's a very peaceful thing to do. If you have 2 minutes, you can just open it up.
Yep.
Anyone can understand it. And it's a skill that you'll be like, oh yeah, I know that. But you forget. Like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
forget to live our lives this way, you know, to think of like, pay attention to how I come across to others. Well, that's interesting because a lot of people think they come across in a way that they actually don't. You know, maybe someone is shy,
Yeah.
but they come across as aloof or even arrogant. Well, that doesn't
Mm.
serve you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Of course.
just good. So they're just skills like that you can read, and it's like, and then that day immediately you can apply it to your life. And again, it's not rocket science, but it's a collection of things that anyone can do, that when you do them all, you have a resilient mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, certainly I did take a look inside it with the chapters, but just looking on the Amazon, I don't think I can get to the pictures or see it the way you're working. But I'd imagine that the actual title is exactly what it says it does. It's like 2-minute bite-size ways of
Yep.
learning different aspects of resilience. It's kind of like each
Exactly.
chapter in its own kind of lesson, and you can go to any chapter in the book. That's what you're saying.
And I mean, I do that on my social media too. It's like everything, small skills that you can, if you literally have a minute, we have these little mini books on social media,
Okay.
on Instagram.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, again, you can read it in less than a minute. And it's something that's like, oh, I get that. I could do that today. That's a good reminder.
Yeah. Well, I see this book was out on February the 10th, 2019, which amazingly, I have had a lot of guests come on the show, and it kind of like, it's stuff that people can do with during the pandemic, but they actually released it just before. They were writing something about it, you know. So amazingly, it's something that's going to help. Well, it actually can help at any stage of, you know, through the whole century. You know, there's different things that happen.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Sadly, there will be more, right? There will be more things that.
Well, this is what they're saying. I mean, what's his name? The Microsoft guy. What's his name?
Bill Gates.
Yeah, he's always saying, well, you know, that's, you know, there could be another pandemic, you know, it's something one of his kind of speeches really, but yeah, sadly we've got to really keep our guards up for that. And you know, there was pandemics. I mean, the swine flu is a pandemic, you know, it did become a kind of pandemic, but it wasn't, you know, like this one's killing people in a more wider spread the case really. But anyway, let's not go down that road and talk about negative stuff. What have you got going on for yourself now? How does your practice work now, your coaching and everything else? Because I don't know.
Yeah, what were you going to say?
I don't know if you're a therapist still now or
I am. I still love that. It just keeps me in touch with, I just love the one-on-one helping people. And in my private practice, it's really mostly teens and young adults. I feel like if you can help people at that age, you're helping them for their whole lives.
Yeah.
And then I do corporate conflict resolution. I love conflict. So I feel like businesses are like families.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of a business therapist in that way too. There's, that same kind of conflict that happens with people, that's kind of nice for me because I just in and out, I go and help them solve that problem and then I'm out. And then I've just launched 2 parenting courses, online parenting courses. So one is just resilience-based parenting. And it's all, again, little bite size. So we're doing that in audio lessons.
Yeah.
So once a week, you get the skill of the week in a little 10-minute audio. So you can be walking the dog or driving the car or whatever and get it. And then we send you, if you'd like it, then an activity you can do with your kids and then another resource. So we have that. And then one specifically for divorcing parents. Yeah. Because I feel like that's such a big thing is like, will my kids be okay?
Well, that's right. Yeah. It's a key area that they said was that and a baby boom was something that's going to happen during the pandemic, even the divorce rates rising. And I don't know whether that's true. Are they actually now seeing some
I've
dating sites saying,
I think it is though.
Well, I've seen some dating sites saying that actually a lot of relationships are actually improved because people weren't together long enough and appreciating more if it's actually,
Well,
so
that makes sense too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, exactly. So
people you hear so many times people like they never took a walk together and now they take a walk together every night after dinner and family dinners. People didn't always eat family dinners together.
Well, that's right. Yeah, exactly. That kind of thing. Yeah, or it just could be a very busy household. Everyone doing so many different things, and especially we've got teenagers. They're used to kind of I'm going to go and I'm friends and I'm going to go. I mean, I did sports, so I was going out practicing at least 3 times a week. And coming in at different times, traveling in the weekends to competition. So people were in and out as teenagers, and obviously the parents, my dad did shift work, so it was kind of like I did shift work. So yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, well, you're doing some great work there. And the videos there's 10-minute videos and everything. Are there something people enroll with online, or is it something on your social media?
So wait, you went out. You were talking about on social media?
Yeah, the 10-minute videos. Yeah. Yep.
They're audios, not videos.
Audios. Sorry. Yeah. How do they get?
So those are, you have to go to MacDermott Method. If you go to MacDermottMethod.com, you'll see all my programs and everything there. And,
excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, on that note, they can go to MacDermottMethod.com. You've also got your own website as well that people can go to as well.
Yeah, and KristinMacDermott.com. Yeah, and I will actually create a page. When you tell me when you're going to release this, I will create a page for your listeners specifically. So it'll be MacDermottMethod.com/Dave Palmer or something like that. And then I'll give discounts if, for people who go there through.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it will be ready this weekend. So we're on the weekend of the 16th, 17th, 18th of April, but if not Monday or Tuesday, I can wait for the link then as well. But so the book and everything will be on the KristinMacDermott.com, and is that a good place to go? Yeah,
or the book is Amazon. If you want the book, just go to Amazon. Yeah,
excellent. Well, anyone listening, I will be putting Kirstin's actual website, KristinMacDermott.com, on the show notes, so you can always click there. That's a good place to start for you, Kirstin. Is it Kristin? Sorry, Kirstin. Is it Kirstin or Kristin?
Kristin.
Yeah, Kristin. Yeah, I don't want to say. So I said Kristin at the beginning, and all of a sudden I went to Kirstin. I don't know what happened there. So that's a good place to start for people to get you on your website there. Great, excellent. Well,
you are so nice to have me. This was great.
Yeah. Well, this is more conversational, and I like to pick little debates, and it just gets people listening, and oh wow, that I didn't know that, so I try to draw that rather than an interrogation, of set questions. And
you have such an interesting story yourself and a genuine interest in resilience that it's great.
That's absolutely right there. Yeah. So I mean, I don't do the work as powerfully as what you do, but I just started you know, going from personal training and just looking at all the aspects.
Any of it is. If you can help one person, I feel like, you know, just the intention of helping people feel better is huge.
Yeah, it's a bit like how you train a police officer to help kids learn. I'm just trying to learn the same way. You know, you could teach me as an ex-firefighter, oh, well, this is what you can do, and that's how I'm learning it, and then I'll go and coach it, you know, that kind of thing, really.
Exactly.
So, from my experience as well, you know. So yeah. Excellent. Well, Kirsten, it's been a great pleasure having a conversation with you on the show today, and I hope we can maybe have you back, because it is a topic that I will be going over, you know, so if something comes up, maybe if someone needs help after post-pandemic or whatever, like we say, we don't know what's going to happen. It's still uncertainty a little bit, isn't it? So let's have you back and help people, I think.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again.
Yeah. It's a great pleasure having this show, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.